This is From Courtroom to Carline, the podcast where we discuss life as a lawyer and a parent.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Rick.
Your hosts and partners both in the courtroom and in parenting.
Join us as we navigate the fascinating worlds of law and family life.
Now, this is not legal advice, but in every episode, From Courtroom to Carline is a delightful blend of legal insight and parenting hilarity.
Get ready for a roller coaster ride where law meets love and where the gavel meets the Carline.
All right, so welcome to another episode of From Courtroom to Carline, a legal parenting podcast. On today's episode, we have Charis Campbell, the owner of Golden Key Law Group. Welcome, Charis.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, Charis, you are a mom of a 3-year-old about to be 4. You're also an owner of your firm. Can you walk us through kind of how you started Golden Key Law Group and what that looked like?
In law school, we all went to Stetson together. I worked as a law clerk doing foreclosure plaintiffs work. And then after graduating, I thought that I would be working at that firm, but all of the foreclosure firms started downsizing. And so I ended up working at Gulf Coast Legal Services doing foreclosure defense. And while I was there, I was a contract attorney. And so I got approached by my former partner to start a law firm. And so we started taking cases. And about 8 months later, I made the decision to fully jump in with her. And then about a year later, I started Golden Key Law Group.
That's awesome. How many people now work for your firm?
7.
How did you grow or scale? Because, we've talked about this a little bit on the show before. It's just Rick and I and our legal assistant, and we want to grow and scale, but it's nerve-wracking. It's scary. How did you know it was right, and how did you get to hire more employees?
That is a great question and a loaded question because I think that scaling is one of the most important aspects of being a law firm owner and scaling correctly. And I did not do it in the way that I would have liked to. So my strength as an owner is in marketing, and I take great interest in marketing and learning the intricacies of it, as well as, going to networking groups. Bryce was not born yet, so that was my hobby. I would go to different bar associations and for the open bar and the free food and meet all types of people and, gain connections and relationships. And by doing that, I obtained a lot of referrals, as well as, the leadership opportunities. And so as the referrals came in, and then I started doing the direct marketing, SEO, all of that stuff, increasing the budget. The clients came in, then I just started hiring as I saw fit, right? But did that without implementing the structure, the standard operating procedures, workflow process, all of that. So I would recommend that you put your processes in place first and then scale up your marketing to where you want to grow to. And then as that grows and the clients come in, then you start hiring the right people. And that's actually what I'm doing now. I'm forecasting and preparing for another growth.
And that's one of the things that Jenna really got on me about when she joined the firm in 2023. I had no processes in place because it was just me. And so I'm looking at my computer and I know where things are. I know I'm just basically working on the fly. And Jenna's like, no, you've got to make this easier for me to come on board so I know what's going on. I know where I can find things, and there's got to be a little bit more structure because it's not just you anymore. And so and now when you're talking about hiring more people, that becomes more and more important because, she's my wife, she can be brutally honest with me and tell me when I'm doing things wrong. But when you've got employees, they're looking at you and it's a different dynamic and a different relationship. So I can see why it's even more important to have those structures in place.
So one of the things that we used was a case management software. I think that really helped us lineate things and get things more in order. We use Clio. Do you guys use a case management software?
Yes, we use Clio as well.
We haven't used really all of what Clio has to offer. Did you implement that early on, or was that something that you got later?
I used Clio very early. Yeah. Because we used it at the with my former partner.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, you'll be surprised how many things as you hire more people, like who's ordering the paper at what frequency, right? You can imagine you have a trial and you're like, oh my gosh, we ran out of paper. Who's responsible for that? Something happens with the computer. Where's the IT guy? Who called them? Who's responsible for follow-up? You know, there's so many little issues. And if you don't put it in place, you're going to end up being like a bottleneck, you know, decision maker on every single little aspect of your firm. And then if you're doing that while maintaining a caseload, it becomes very overwhelming. And it was fine before I became a parent because I don't care, you know, I'm just going to work all day, work all night, whatever. And then I'll go to the gym at some point, I'll sleep at some point. You know, I used to just like work 3 days in a row and then crash and I'll be fine. But with my son, that was a game changer, especially when he was a baby. He had a lot of respiratory issues. So I would plan, okay, I'm going to work 2-3 days in a row and then I'll sleep on this day. Well, that might have been the day that he was sick. And now I'm at the hospital until 3-4 in the morning and I got a hearing at 8 a.m. So it's like I realized that I could not do it. You know, I couldn't be the person I need to be for me, to be the parent that I need to be for him, and to be the engaged owner that I needed to be for my staff. And so with that, I became more intentional about all of these different capacities.
You obviously told us some of the things, but how did becoming a parent change you? Like, what did you realize needed to change? Because I know that I think you were in BNI at one point. Are you still in BNI?
No.
Okay. Real quick, because I want to get back to the question that I was asking, but Rick was in BNI when we had our second child. And again, great organization, but when you have kids and you're getting up at, 6-7 o'clock in the morning and having to be out the door, and I'm responsible for, taking care of 2 children, it was a lot. How has, becoming a mom, how did that kind of change things and what you were doing with networking?
When I was pregnant, I was actually teaching. I taught 2 nights a week at St. Pete College, their paralegal program. I also taught family law at Stetson, and I sat on maybe 3 or 4 boards. And I felt drained all of the time. And I was no longer enjoying. I had to get more intentional, look at all of the things that I'm involved in. And, just because, and I also decorated, I still have a garage full of decorations, and I would do weddings. I'm doing a wedding in May, but
nice.
I enjoy so many things, and I love working and monetizing work if I can. My hobbies, but I had to be intentional and figure out, okay, you enjoy this, but this may be something that is later down the road. You do later down the road. This may be something that you cannot do. What is your immediate purpose and goal, and what networking and associations are serving that? And so I had to go through that process, and I actually went through that with a therapist because I think that I'm a superwoman, and I'm like, I want to do it all. And that was actually the biggest experience, most humbling experience, is that I cannot do it all and be a good parent, or the parent that I'd like to be. I think parents are hard on themselves. I think that if you care whether you're a good or bad parent, you're probably a good parent, but
yes,
and be the type of parent that I'd like to be.
I can definitely resonate with that because obviously pre-children, I can stay at work however long I need to. I can take work home on the weekends. If you're in trial late, there's no care in the world. You just come home, and if you need to stop on the way home to get something quick to eat, you can do that. But obviously once you have kids, at least, it sounds like for you and me, I really cared. I wanted to do my job, but I also wanted to be with my children. And you're right. I wanted to believe that I could do it all, but we can't. And like you said, prioritizing what needs to get done so that you can still, spend time with your children is something that I, work on and still struggle with. Just yesterday, we picked the kids up from school and I'm like, I'm so overwhelmed. I have still so much to do, and it's just, it's a struggle, but so long as I think we're aware of it and trying to do the best we can, that's really, what we can do.
In Bryce's first year, while I was still teaching, he spent maybe almost 10 to 12 hours with the at-home daycare person. And then he spent, a lot of time with my mom. And I realized like when I realized that he was having more of a connection with like my mother, with that hit hard. And that's when I had to make those hard decisions. And then the hard decision was, after getting him to daycare, do my work, get done by 5 o'clock. I cut a lot of the extracurricular, anything outside of daytime, I pretty much cut for a little while if I could. And then I'd make sure I spend, 2-3 hours with him, phone away.
Yes.
Just connecting with him and doing things that he enjoyed, which, that's just playing with toys, which I'm a child, so it's fine. And then we do, our routine, and I would then work till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And I did that for a year straight, but it was tough. And that's what made me realize that I cannot continue to work until 1 o'clock in the morning. I have to shift what's happening with the firm so that it's not so top heavy, and really utilize all of the employees based on their strengths and, our responsibilities, and try to delegate, because I'm so used to I'm going to just do everything, and it doesn't work like that.
Well, I think you were smart in a sense that you did all those networking and extracurricular stuff pre-kids, and you made all those connections and probably did it for a number of years. For Jenna and I, we never really did that because by the time I started the law practice, we had our two older sons. And so we already had kids because we were working jobs. We were employees. And so we weren't really concerned about marketing ourselves. And so I think you did a really good job, and you were smart in doing that networking all pre-kids, establishing those connections. That way, when you do start a family, you've already put in the work and kind of got your name out there. So I think you did it the right way in that regard.
So I am the incoming president for the Clearwater Bar Association.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
Yes. Wow.
Thank you. So I just felt like I didn't have a choice because, like I said, I disappeared from the afternoon scene for about a year or two. And now, as of this, I moved during last May. I'm like, I don't have a choice. I have to, I tell my ED, what do I absolutely need to go to? What do you recommend that I go to? I'm just so intentional about making sure that I'm present with the bar, and also, making sure that I can attend as many, because my son started karate and we're trying to try out soccer, and so that dance. But
You said ED.
oh, sorry, executive director.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I forecast the most, but you have to do it, and so I asked her for the entire year at a time. It's like, make sure you know that it can change. Like, that's fine. But I'd rather it be on my calendar.
Yes.
So that I can pick and choose which days I'm going to spend with my son, which days I'm going to spend with the bar. Because, as it never really stops with marketing, and people want to see your face and they want to feel your presence. So with both of you being, powerhouses, you may not like it, but split up and tackle one bar association.
I definitely think
each.
it's something that we need to do, because obviously, like, we have mutual friends, but I would hear that you were going to BNI. I was hearing that, you do family law, that you do real estate. And so when I have someone call us and they need, someone for real estate, I'm like, oh, Golden Key Law Group. But that's because you were putting yourself out there into these organizations, and, the lawyer community, they talk, and you start to hear of people who are networking and doing that. So, I mean, it obviously has, paid off in dividends for you.
Oh, thank you. So Rita, my associate, she's in BNI now. And so what I do is I make my appearances to her group. And so I'll do coverage with her, or sometimes I'll attend with her, so that I'm still getting like FaceTime with her networking group, but I don't have that weekly
obligation. Yes.
What is it? It starts at 7:30, so up at like 5:45. Oof.
I want to go back real quick. You said you moved your mom in. Where are you originally from?
From the Bahamas.
Okay.
Yes.
Very nice. And then we had talked a little bit before, but kind of tell our listeners, what it looked like growing up for you. Did you grow up there? Did you grow up here in Florida? Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up partially in the Bahamas and here. I was born in the Bahamas and then moved here as a baby, and then we moved back in like elementary school. Then I moved back here a few years later, back and forth 3 different times. The last time was for high school. My parents, I think, moved back and forth 2 times after my final stay here.
Do you have a lot of family, obviously, still back in the Bahamas?
Yes, I would say about 80% of them are still there.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just there about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, nice. So were you able to take your son with you?
Not this time, but he spent a significant amount of time in the Christmas last year, and he'll probably come with me in September.
Very nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome that you're able to do that and share that piece of you with him.
Yes, yes, and he enjoys the island life.
Yes.
Yeah, he likes the beach, and he's definitely an outside boy, and so I call him an island boy. He does enjoy it.
What type of advice would you give to parents that are, running their own business, running their own law firm, trying to do it all? What would you tell them?
Not be so hard on themselves. We as lawyers like to be perfectionists, and I think we criticize ourselves as parents a lot. And that comes out in different ways. Some people will joke about it, or some people will be upset about it. But, all in all, not being so hard on ourselves, the fact that we care, especially doing family law and dependency, I think that's a step ahead of a lot of parents. And then with that, being intentional. And so I think people think that this like work-life balance concept means that everything has to be 50-50. And I don't think that that's realistic.
Agreed.
I think that work-life balance means that you are intentional about incorporating that balance that ebbs and flows. So I take it 1 week at a time. I don't take it a day at a time. I think that's too much pressure.
Yes.
I look at the week prior and say, okay, how did I spend my week? Did I attend his karate class? How many days did I read to him? Did we sing a song? Did we dance? Did we do the things that he liked? I wish I did it a little bit more. Okay, I'll do that the following week. Or I won't make plans with anyone else but him on a Sunday. Sunday is his day. And so I just take it 1 week at a time.
That's pretty smart, because you can kind of see your calendar and take an outside perspective, as if, whether it's a family member or a friend is looking at the situation, and kind of figure out on your own, okay, I need to devote a little bit more time this week because it looks like I was putting in a little bit too much at the office the previous week. So I like that approach. One of the parenting hacks that I want to ask you about is when you're wanting to get your son to do something that he doesn't want to do, you ask him to do it, but you ask him to do it in song form. So tell us, how did you think of that idea? Because that sounds tremendous.
So when Bryce was a young toddler, I guess older baby, what is it? Like one is like, walking. a little bit of talking. Well, 1, 2.
Yeah.
He sang a lot to the extent that the daycare providers would tell me that he actually had the other kids singing and that their parents would talk about them singing. So Bryce always like loved music. And so everything would have, that's been the most effective way. Like potty training, I've tried to bribe him in so many different ways. Like, okay, we'll go outside if you potty. No, I don't want to go outside. I'll give you a candy. I don't want candy. Like, I've tried to bribe him. I bought like a box of 100 cars and he loves cars. That didn't work. None of it worked until I started playing that poop song. It's like poop, poop, poop. And so that got him. That got him. So we got that locked down. And then I made up a song about peeing.
Yep.
And he would like sing that. And then the shower song, we're gonna take a shower, we're gonna take like so everything I've managed to like brushing your teeth.
Yep.
To get him to brush his teeth. He actually asks Alexa to play the brushing your teeth song.
That's great.
It's for him to brush his teeth. So yeah, and you know, and that's what I'm saying about like spending that quality time, because I wouldn't have known that. And so imagine that frustration of trying to get like a stubborn kid who has a mind of his own that cannot be bribed. I mean, I don't know of a better persuaded, I guess, manipulated, right? By positive reinforcements. And I don't want to say manipulated, but like encouraged by positive reinforcements, which we all are. That doesn't work with him. And so by spending time with him, that quality time, I was able to find something that works.
That's so awesome. And, you know, it's so true, though. I mean, I did not realize that having kids was going to be as difficult as it is, especially having 3. They each have a different personality, and having to find out what it is that's going to motivate them, that's going to help them learn, is definitely something that honestly probably changes daily, weekly, monthly as they get older.
Oh, 100%. You know, my niece, she spends quite a bit of time at my house too, because of course Nana's there.
Yep.
And she has a very like straightforward personality. Like she's outgoing. She'll tell you what she wants. She's explorative. I call her, you know, she's like Dora the Explorer. She's very like her, you know, herself. Bryce is so multi-dimensional because while he's outgoing, he also can be shy. He can also be very like reserved or, you know, afraid to try new things, so it can appear to be defiant, but then outgoing. It's very, so I always joke that like I don't need another kid because I feel like I have 3 in 1.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's actually trying to figure him out, you know.
And also he's 3, you know, going on 4. I feel like the 3s is when they start to develop a mind of their own and become more stubborn. Our youngest one, up until he had turned 3, was the most lovable, just went with the flow, mind, you know, where we were going, what we were doing, what he was eating. But now, after turning 3, and maybe because he's picking up more so from his brothers, but that's when they really start to say the word no more.
Oh, yeah.
And so we feel you on the mind of their own, you know, especially at this age.
They turn into 3-nagers.
Yes, they certainly do.
Yeah. I asked my friends, like, have you ever argued with a 3-year-old? Because we were hard down, like, arguing.
Well, and it's funny, too, because, you know, here we are lawyers. I'm like, okay, I can, you know, cross-examine and I can try to get answers. No, I mean, they give me a run for my money sometimes. And it's well, here we go, you know?
Right. It's like when you're going back and forth and then they start elevating their voice. It's like, okay, you win.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to, I'm tired. Like,
Are you reading any books, listening to any podcasts, watching any shows that's kind of helping you either, you know, in mom life or grow your firm?
So I am currently reading the book Law Firm Accelerator. Another show that I'm watching that's helping me is the new episodes of Walking Dead.
Okay.
Yeah, I like sci-fi for that reason.
Yep.
Because I feel like I live in reality TV at work. But yeah, in all seriousness, I've been reading a Law Firm Accelerator.
Give us a little bit of an idea of what Law Firm Accelerator is, what you've been, some of the main points you've been picking up.
I mean, the book starts off by illustrating a hierarchy of what they call like the law firm ownership degrees, and every step up provides more freedom, right? And so it describes like a solo law firm owner to like being a law firm owner, to then being like a CEO, to then being like a freedom entrepreneur, to then being a wealth multiplier. And in the beginning, it describes that most of us get stuck at that like mid-level.
Yep.
And, you know, it really focuses on, okay, where would you like to be? So for instance, pre-Bryce, I didn't care. Like I, you know, didn't care about how many hours I worked, what my day looked like. It was just, I just did whatever I wanted. But now I have to be intentional about what it's going to look like. And then, like I mentioned, I don't know if I want more children. I think I may be done. And so with that, I really want to be involved and engaged. And I like, you know, thank God I have a boy because I like sports, and he likes, well, thank God he likes sports. Let me
Yes.
say that because
Yep.
it could have been. So he likes soccer. I want to be assistant coach. You know, I want to be at the games. I want to practice with him. And so with that, my time needs to be available. And so I need to be up there with the freedom entrepreneur. I want to be able to take him on vacations. I want to take him to the Bahamas. And so like right now, I probably don't spend more than a week away from the firm. And that's even rare. I usually just go for like, take maybe 2 days, 3 days. I rarely take off a lot of time. And so I'm very intentional about getting to that freedom. And that's the whole point of owning it, but to me, right? And that's what I'm
Yes,
saying. You have
absolutely.
to do some self-reflection and kind of figure out what is your purpose and what's the goal. And so for me, it was number one, to develop a culture that I feel reflects my values and how I would like, you know, to live. I don't want to feel like it's a job. I want to feel like it's like that I'm doing great work. Like, you get what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
I don't want it to feel like work. It's just, I'm helping people.
Yes.
And I just happen to get paid for
Yes.
it, you know? But so culture was one of the reasons. But then the second thing is the flexibility in being an entrepreneur. And so that was my motivation. And I'm trying to get back to that. And so the book then goes into the different ways, like marketing, HR, workplace, workflow issues, and or solutions, strategic planning, making sure that your employees know what they're doing, having those KPIs or those markers in place to monitor progress. It goes into all of that extensively, your intake process. And so it's been really good for me to, because I've had the firm for 10 years now.
Yeah. Wow.
I am literally tearing it apart to build it back up. And like we talked about scaling,
Yep.
putting the things in place to then scale again. Because you can, it talks about investing the marketing budget for where you want to go.
Yes.
So let's say you want to earn like 10 million, you know, whatever percentage
Yep.
of your, I think they said like 30%.
Yep.
That's what you invest. Well, you invest that, get the clients, then what?
Right.
If your intake process isn't set up, then you're not going to get the appointments.
Exactly.
You know, so that's what I've been actively working on.
Charis, thank you so much again. Stay tuned because we're going to do our segment of What Happened to Florida Man.
Thank you, Charis. So for this segment on What Happened to Florida Man, we've got a hometown story here in Clearwater Beach of a man who was on Pier 60 who climbed upon the playground, the top of the playground, jungle gym area. And I don't know if you're not from Clearwater, but Pier 60 in Clearwater Beach is a pretty heavy tourist attraction, so lots of kids. He climbed up onto the playground and started to shout at the top of his lungs in rather vulgar terms where babies came from. A lot of parents were obviously terrified, started taking their children away from the scene, and he was arrested for disorderly conduct. He was taken to jail, and the end story is he went to advisories, which is first appearance court, pled to a fine, and was released. And that was that. So I bring that up because, obviously we've all got children, and I've always wondered when the right time is to discuss the topic of sex. Our oldest is 8. We're starting to get questions from our two older ones
about where babies come from.
Yes, and so I really don't remember when that discussion was had with me. I was an only child raised by my mom, and I don't think you do either.
No, I have no recollection if it did happen. I don't recall it, so I'm going to just say it didn't. We didn't have that discussion.
So I was thinking of maybe taking our cue from school because, they go to a good Christian school, and I feel like they'll, introduce the subject in a right way. But at the same time, I feel like parents, that's your job. You can't rely on school. You can't rely on others to do that aspect of the parenting responsibilities. And this has been another episode of From Courtroom to Carline, a legal parenting podcast.